The next morning, Clara made up her mind. If her parents wouldn't believe her, she'd find answers herself. She waited until they were both out of the room, then crept into the study, an old chamber lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Dusty ledgers and brittle pages filled the space. In the corner, a box labeled Family Records sat unopened. Clara rifled through it, heart racing. She found old photographs, a few faded letters, a black-and-white picture of the very house they now lived in. But what made her freeze was a photograph of a girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old. She wore a red dress. Her expression was blank. No smile, no light in her eyes. On the back, in ink that had faded to brown, someone had written, "Enora, lost in the attic. 1904. Clara's skin crawled. She dug deeper, uncovering scraps of newspaper clippings. One headline read, "Child vanishes during storm. Search ends after 3 days." The article told the story of Enora Holloway, the only daughter of the original homeowners. She had gone missing one stormy night. Her body was never found. The attic had been locked for decades afterward. Some claimed they heard scratching. Others spoke of whispers. Many believed she had fallen through a broken board and was trapped, slowly dying in the walls. Clara covered her mouth, her stomach turning. Enora never left the attic. She had been waiting, and now she was inside the doll. Clara ran upstairs, ignoring the way the lights flickered as she passed. The attic door was wide open. The air felt colder than it should have. The shadows in the corners seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. She crawled to the dollhouse. The dolls had changed again. Now there were 7. A new doll stood in the hallway, a man in a broken arm sling. Another sat in the bathroom, holding a crying baby. The mother doll was curled on the floor, her face cracked. And in the attic room, the red-dressed doll stood beside another, a doll with brown hair, a checkered nightgown, and eyes that looked just like Clara's. It was her doll. Her mouth was now sewn shut. Clara screamed and scrambled back. No, 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 this isn't real. But it was, because when she turned around, she saw the real Enora, standing by the attic window. The same red dress, the same black-threaded smile. Only now, the threads were coming undone, curling like black worms from her lips. "Play with me," Enora whispered. Clara backed toward the stairs, but the attic door slammed shut with a bang. Enora took a step forward. "I was alone for so long. I made the dollhouse to remember, to keep them here, so they'd never leave me again." Her voice was soft, sad, but her eyes were endless. "You're the last piece, Clara, the last doll. Then we can all stay, forever." "No," Clara screamed. She turned, pounding on the attic door. "Mom, Dad, please." The walls around her began to ripple. Wooden beams warped. The dollhouse behind her groaned and grew, expanding taller, wider. She turned to look, and the attic was gone. She was inside the dollhouse. The walls were wooden, painted with tiny fake furniture. Enora stood in the corner, towering over her now. Clara looked down. She was shrinking. Her hands were turning pale, stiff. Porcelain. Downstairs, her parents called her name. They found her room empty. The front door was locked. No one had seen her leave. They searched for days, then weeks. Police combed the house. They never found the attic, because it no longer existed. The dollhouse sat silently in the shadows. Inside it, 7 dolls stood frozen in their rooms. At the very top, in the attic of the dollhouse, 2 dolls faced forward, one in red, one in a checkered nightgown, their mouths stitched, their eyes wide, their heads tilted toward the door as if waiting. 10 months later, the house was sold. A new family arrived, a couple with a little boy named Elias. He was curious, clever, and when he climbed into the attic and found the strange dollhouse tucked in the corner, he smiled with excitement. He reached for the attic door on the tiny wooden house. Inside, the dolls stood waiting, and somewhere far away, faintly, a thread snapped loose. A whisper echoed in the silence. "One more to go."